that didn't work. Stay here. There we go. All right, ladies and gents, welcome back to the 1% podcast. Had a little bit of a break for about a month, and we literally just said this off air. So I'm excited to do this one. And my guest today is buzzing for this one. So Sam, thank you for joining me today, bud. How you doing?
Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm good. It's 7 p.m. here, obviously in Western Australia, so it's prime time for me to kind of just sit back, chill, and shoot the ship. I'm really excited for it.
Awesome, man. No, we'll definitely get into that side of things, like why you're an Oz and stuff. But for anyone that doesn't know you, just a little bit about you in a minute.
So obviously my name is Sam. My nickname, or the name I go by, I suppose, is the Barbell and Beers Coach. So pretty much, the whole reason I'm in the fitness industry and stuff, I'm on a massive crusade to kind of prove that there's a better, more consistent, and a much more fun way of getting in shape compared to, the standard. As you'll know, Brandon, of course, there are a lot of frauds in the industry. There's a lot of people who go too far to the extreme and, kind of end up leading people down a path where, people don't end up getting results and come away with a more toxic relationship with fitness and food and stuff like that. And I kind of stand all against that. So, my whole ethos is proving that you can get in shape without giving up your social life. And yeah, that is pretty much my entire existence in the fitness industry and what I stand for.
No, awesome, man. No, I definitely see on your Instagram there's a beer, at least a beer a week, isn't there? I think maybe you're pretty good at it. So maybe less.
Ironically, I put up a TikTok earlier on saying 5 to 7 beers a week. That's pretty much what I normally have. Yeah.
Really? Okay. I just see about one, so
Yeah.
I'm just that's pretty good. Nah, no, honestly, like we talked about this just before, and we were kind of bouncing some messages back and forth, and we were like, oh, let's kind of cover balance. So we'll definitely get into that because obviously that is a realm that you're very good at. And honestly, like from a selfish reason, I can try and take some tips away. I do struggle with this. Maybe the food I'm a little bit better with, but I think the balance to overall life, I think that I can
Yeah.
definitely take some tips from you for sure. So kind of I want to go back a little bit, but like high school era, secondary school, like because I knew you grew up in Nottingham, is that's home ground for you?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So what was high school, things like that? What was kind of like your childhood building up into kind of college? Did you go to university, things like that?
Yeah, so I mean, to be fair, it's kind of just after after sixth form, really, where my sort of career began in a lot of ways. So to kind of go all the way back to them, basically. So after I kind of finished sixth form, obviously just turning 18 and stuff, that's when I really started getting deep into the gym. Well, actually, it started a couple of years before that. I'll take it back a little bit further. So during secondary school, I had to have an operation on my chest. It wasn't anything major, nothing, health threatening or anything like that. It was kind of more of a cosmetic thing. As I was growing up, I ended up developing a lot more fat tissue in certain areas, one being my chest, made me very, very self-conscious. So I had a surgery when I was in year 9 or 10, I believe, to get rid of that. And then I was basically given advice by the doctors, like, you should probably go to the gym, try and work on like building some muscle a little bit, so like your kind of like body evens out a little bit more and kind of has a bit more of a symmetrical appearance type thing. And that was ultimately what got me started in the gym. But for a long time with that, as I kind of got started in the fitness industry, I ended up falling into the same traps that many people do, right? I was kind of winging it in the gym for a long time, hopping from program to program on bodybuilding.com, the usual stuff, right?
Yeah.
Um, Kind of going down the super strict dieting approach and things like that. So for the first few years of my sort of fitness journey, it was very much aesthetic focused. It was trying to fix, the insecurities of how I looked after the operation and stuff like that. Um, just on a thought about it, I don't think many people actually know about that really. They know about kind of where it all went wrong for me at the start of my fitness journey, but they don't know what got me into the gym in the first place. So that's, I suppose, a bit of an exclusive on that one. So um, but yeah, that's essentially what got it all kicked off. And then, I was kind of going to the gym and I was still playing sports at the time. I was still playing football and whatnot while I was in secondary school and sixth form. Um, and then it was kind of after that, really, that's where I really started to take the gym a little bit more seriously. But that's also where a lot of my problems started as well. So um, we're talking now around the age of 19, 20, let's say. And that's when I probably went down like a bit of a darker path with the fitness side of things. So This was where I was, going to the gym religiously 6, 7 times a week. I was doing faster cardio every morning. I was doing abs at home, abs in the gym every single day. I was living on an extremely strict meal plan. Again, went on to remember the old days of like the forums on bodybuilding.com?
Oh god, yeah.
Did you ever go down that route? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
fell
I
into
mean,
that.
like 8 meals a day, intros, all that sort of stuff, and you're like,
Yep.
fuck.
Oh man, I fell for it hard, like very, very hard. So I was that guy. I think I had it was like 6 meals a day, something like that. There was pre-workout BCAAs from Optimum Nutrition. There was intra workout. There was all sorts, and that was like 7 days a week, and it was one of
Yeah,
them
wow,
where
man.
that was what I thought I had to do to get lean, get abs, to get big, that sort of stuff, right? Um, and it got to the extent where I was doing that 7 days a week. And anytime that I would inevitably fall off plan, when eventually I got sick and tired of it, sort of thing, um, I'd go on like a massive binge or whatever, eat a ton of food, feel guilty as hell for it, end up going straight back in the gym, doing more cardio to try and rectify it. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Long and short of it was, I was basically miserable as fuck. It's probably the best way to describe it. Um, I had very little body fat, but also very little muscle because I spent that much time in a deficit. I was
Yeah,
scared to go into a surplus to try and build muscle because I was scared of losing my abs.
yeah.
So yeah, it was quite the start really to my sort of serious sort of fitness side of things. And it was, to put it in perspective, it was one weekend, I think when I was 20, 21, 22. I went to go to a football match with my mates, and while we're there during the game, those guys went down at halftime to grab a pint, grab some food, and I actually hate talking about this story because it makes me feel so embarrassed. But um, I whipped out like a very cold piece of Tupperware with chicken and rice in. There was no seasoning, no flavor, no nothing. I was sat there at halftime while everyone's got a pint in their hand, having a burger and stuff. I'm sat there with a cold piece of chicken and rice, eating that at halftime, drinking a bottle of water.
Yeah.
And that was the moment where it really clicked into my head. I was like, can I really live like this for the rest of my life? Like, not even being able
Mm.
to enjoy the simple things like just having a pint with my mates when I go watch the football, little things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and that was the catalyst, really. That's what started this journey to get me to this point right now, to essentially what I've become now as a coach and the message I preach, sort of thing.
Amazing, man. So that actually lasted quite a long time. Like what, 4 years, maybe? Something like
It
that?
was it was about 4 years roughly, and I think when I look back at it now, it was kind of, when you kind of get into that sort of paralysis state where you don't recognize that you're doing things so wrong because you become so oblivious to it.
Mm.
Um, and what was happening very much in the later stages was I was definitely rebelling against my strict diet a lot more. I wasn't talking about it as much. I tried to ignore it and just tried to punish myself with it a lot.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the reason why my body wasn't changing is because I was weak as hell in the gym from dieting so strictly, not fueling my body properly. I was having the odd binge here or there as well. Well, not binge to the extent, but more of a case of I'd just go fuck it and eat a shitload of food for
Yeah.
like 3 days straight. You know what I mean? And I'd end up in a pretty bad way afterwards. I'd end up, going into the gym the next day, doing more fasted cardio and stuff like that. So yeah, it was roughly 3.5, 4 years total, I think, I was doing that. And my physique did not change at all. All that happened really was that I just lost more muscle mass, um and yeah, it was just put me into a pretty miserable spot. So it did last a while in my sort of early days of the fitness industry.
But it's amazing how, like, obviously for you, you hear the story a lot, but it happens like we all did. I think like not all
Mm,
did that, like, but I definitely did. I remember like eating a shit meal and then doing abs afterwards, like
yeah.
out of just pure and doing press ups to like burn it off and things like that. Like, I think me and you are in a position now where we can give out advice because it's like we've been there in that sense. Like, we've been that. And I think sometimes I don't want to say that I don't still feel like it, but there's definitely moments where I'm like, oh, those old little ways kind of sneak back in a
Yeah.
little bit. Like, obviously 90% of you, yeah, fuck off. But the other 10%, you're like, oh, is it still a thing? Like, you still kind of panic a little
100%.
bit. And I think,
Yeah.
like I said at the beginning of this call, I think this is what I can definitely get off you and things like that, is this kind of balance side of things. And like everyone talks about balance, like I need a balance and I need to whatever it
Mm.
is. And like they try and put it like, the way that I kind of hear balance is like they just want to find this perfect formula that's going to do this, but we
Yeah.
both know that that is not kind of the case of it and things like that.
1,000,000%, mate.
So
Yeah.
before we dive into that, so when you kind of got after that 4 years and things like that, what, so that you're like, what, 20, 22, 23?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Where was the journey from there? What's the next stage for you?
Yeah. So from there, it was I got to that point where I just snapped and I was like, I cannot live like this anymore. Like, surely there's got to be another way that I can, build a body that I'm confident with, that I'm proud of. That doesn't mean I have to sacrifice, the things I enjoy doing. So to give a bit of background, I come from a working class family. I spent most of my weekends in pubs with my family growing up. So it was kind of something I was used to, that environment. I enjoyed being in it. And, I enjoy drinking alcohol and stuff like that. But for that period of life, I was incessant on avoiding these things because I thought that it would just completely fuck up
Yeah.
my physique. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, I just realized that there had to be a different way, and that's what led me down a different path. And I ended up. This is back in a time where you might remember this. As Instagram was really starting to kick off. Like what was it IIFYM and flexible dieting? That was really starting to take off, and that that idea really kind of stuck with me. I was like, this is it. This is what I've been looking for.
Yeah.
Um, I ended up following a few of like the bigger names at the time that were into flexible dieting and stuff. So, this is at a time where like Christian Guzman and stuff like
This
that were
is like
being
the
sponsored by.
OG times, wasn't it? Like this is like Matt
Yeah, yeah,
Otis and things like that. Like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
yeah,
Those
that was
guys,
that was
those
good
guys, man.
times.
Like, those were the good times, man. Those were the times where I would be like literally refreshing my YouTube every day, waiting for those videos to come through because I was so gassed for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was during that time where like flexible dieting really took off because of, a few big YouTubers and things like that talking about it. At the time, I think it was very much still a controversial and a niche topic in the whole realm of sort of fitness and bodybuilding, but I really latched onto it. So, I started doing my research. I finally learned the truth of nutrition, really, that, there are no such thing as good and bad foods, just good and bad diets overall, that sort of stuff, right? Um, and things like that. So that's what really kind of got me to that. So for the first few years, I was really starting to adopt that approach. I was slowly filtering it through, like, because at the time I was obviously learning to become a personal trainer and stuff. Um, and it wasn't really prevalent in what I was teaching to my own clients at the time, or as I was starting to get involved in the fitness industry more. It was kind of something I did on the side, but didn't really talk about it too much because I'm sure you'll know what I mean. Like, as you start getting into the fitness industry, you start bringing your own ideas, that sort of imposter syndrome kicks in and
Yeah.
wondering, whether what you're talking about is genuine or whether people are going to think that you're just taking the piss, that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, that was kind of like my introduction into that really. And, as time gone on, obviously, as I kind of started applying the principles of flexible dieting a little bit more to myself, again, I improved my education around training and hypertrophy and bodybuilding and stuff like that. I started to see better results with my physique. I started to grow better. I had a better balance of the gym. I was able to enjoy my favorite foods a little bit more and things like that. And then since then, it's just been a fine tuning process of, just, improving my knowledge around that, being, again, maintaining my message about being flexible with your nutrition and stuff. And yeah, it's just been in a continuation to get to this point right now.
Amazing, man. No, it's been good because I think it was lockdown, maybe the first one. When was that? I don't even know, like 3 years ago now, 4 years. I know.
3 years ago, yeah.
Was it? Yeah, fuck knows. I need
Yeah,
those
3
years
years ago.
back. Should put it into the government. I'm like, I want those 2 years back, man. um, but yeah, I think that's when I think I first kind of stumbled across you and things like that, and I started following your stuff. And obviously, I've seen it probably over the last year. It's become, I think, you kind of had that maybe again, like I think as coaches, we go through those phases of like, fuck, we believe in what we do all of a sudden. And
Mm,
I've definitely seen that in you, like the way that you come across and things like that throughout the content, probably over the last year building up sort of thing. And there's
I
been
agree. Yeah.
rebranding and stuff like that and into it as well. And definitely because even just the name alone, right? So like
Yeah, yeah,
it suits
100%.
it suits incredibly well of like your history and you've branded yourself extremely well from that, which is amazing, man. So what kind of, because obviously you're from the Midlands, you're from Nottingham and things like that. Like, I lived in Nottingham for like a year as well, and it's good
Yeah.
fun. So what kind of took you to fucking Oz, man? Like, how did you end up there? It's like,
Yeah.
obviously
Oh,
it's a great place.
it's
It's a great place in the world. Like my family live in
yeah.
Perth, so it's quality place. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, it's one hell of a story. And to be fair, when most people hear it, they're still thinking like, "What the fuck? How is that real?" But yeah, obviously during the first lockdown, as it first kicked off, I just finished my sort of business mentorship at the time, so I was working with a mentor to help me grow my business. As the first lockdown hit, he kind of opened his doors to ex-students and was running a bit of a mastermind to help people through the first lockdown that he used to work with that weren't on his current mentorship, that sort of thing. So I ended up joining that. And coincidentally, my girlfriend Sophie, she ended up joining that as well because she'd done a previous round of the mentorship as well. So during the first lockdown, we just got talking in between all of our mentoring sessions and stuff like that. And about 3 months into sort of talking one-to-one every day, that sort of stuff, and doing various Zoom calls and things like that, we had this random crazy idea that Sophie would come over to the UK during a lockdown and come and live with me and start a relationship. So that's how that unfolded. And then
Oh, so you were talking. Okay, so you were actually communicating whilst you met on, but you lived on different sides. You lived in Australia and the UK,
I
but
thought, yeah, I could have swore I told you the story.
don't think so.
I'm sure I've told it you before. But
Really?
yeah, that's basically what happened, bro. Yeah, that's
Oh
how
shit.
we got
Okay. Oh wow. Okay. Good on her. Fuck play. Fair
to.
play.
Yeah. I mean, it was only possible because Sophie obviously had a British passport, so she was able to leave Australia and enter the UK with no issues. I
Wow.
couldn't get into Australia because I wasn't a resident or a visa holder.
Yeah. Yeah.
So essentially, what happened was, Sophie came and lived in the UK for over a year and stuff, and then it was late 2021. Australia was starting to relax their kind of lockdown restrictions in a sense of they were finally starting to allow people to come into the country a little bit more that weren't just necessarily Australian passport holders or citizens or whatever. And through the compassionate option of applying for an exemption, late 2021 was when I got accepted to basically enter Australia, really. So yeah, it was December. It was middle of December 2021. I flew over and I got out of the 2 week quarantine, which was that was
Oh,
an episode in
did you have to
itself.
do
Having
that
to,
in Darwin?
yeah, I did.
I've seen who was it? It might have been Sophie actually. I think I saw her stories. I can't remember. Or it
Yeah,
might have
we,
been
we both did quarantine in the same place because she went back. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you were
So she
fucking doing yoga on the porch and stuff like that, right? And
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I remember that. Yeah, it was so she went back. So she left the UK and she went back about 4 or 5 months before I did. We was hoping that I was going to be about a month after her to get in, but the process to apply, I mean, I applied, I think it was 13 months before I got the exemption granted. 13 months previous to that, and they only accepted it 13 months on, something like that. So in the end, I ended up flying out about 4 or 5 months after she did. But yeah, we both did quarantine in Darwin, so that was interesting. That was 14 days in a cabin. At least we was allowed to sit outside, but the problem was Darwin in December is this tropical season, which means it's 45 degrees every day.
Yeah.
It's humid as hell. You cannot sit outside for more than 5 minutes, 10 minutes at max. You just dive straight back inside to get your aircon, and then you're basically stuck in the same room for 14 days. So that was a great introduction to Australia. That was, I must admit. Um, and then yeah, obviously I spent 6 months in Australia last year. So from December 21 to June last year,
Hmm.
went home for a little bit, then did Dubai for a little bit, then went back to the UK
Nice, man.
for Christmas, and then yeah, I've been back over and I'm now in Australia and I've been here since January this year.
Sick, man. And that's kind of where you're basing yourself now, sort of thing, yeah?
Yeah, I'd say, to be honest, the best way to describe where I'm currently based or where my current location really is wherever my laptop is basically plugged in.
Yeah.
It's a weird one because obviously at the moment I'm having to use the tourist visas here and stuff like that, which only give me 3 months to be here before I have to leave and go back, sort of
Okay,
thing.
yeah.
Um, so at the moment we've kind of just been tossing it up. So we're doing half the year in Australia, half the year in the UK with trips to Dubai in between for business mentorship and stuff like that. So Yeah, we don't really have like a permanent sort of base at the minute. It's kind of just mostly between UK and Australia, and then various trips elsewhere between that.
Okay, cool. No, it's good because obviously, like, I'll probably be doing the same sort of thing. So it's like I'm
Yeah,
trying to definitely. I'll have to speak to you away from the podcast for sure.
yeah, sure.
We'll try and wrap some knowledge around it. But no, it's cool. But no, anyway, back into it. So we kind of I don't normally do podcasts where they're actually topic based. Normally it's just chatting about you and life and shit like that. But
Yeah, yeah,
definitely let's dive into kind of the quote unquote balance side of things. So
yeah,
my thing on like I'm gonna have actually what's so you're gonna have a client come on board and this is what you preach, right? How to get in shape and have this flexibility. And I'm all for it as well. I just think you're better at it than me. So what is your in a sense kind of like methodology behind it all sort of thing? Like how do you
yeah.
do it? Is it kind of like carb cycling and all this, using different tools to enjoy the weekend and stuff like that and all that
Yeah.
jazz?
So it's a mixed approach, really. So at the very foundation of it, all of my clients will use my fitness pal to track their food intake. I do have some on meal plans, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the majority, I'd say maybe 90%, are using my fitness pal to track their food intake. Now, for the most part, I just get clients to track protein and calories because, again, a lot of my clients are coming to me. They are interested in the gym, but they're not they're not looking to do like photo shoots or compete on stage, that sort of stuff, right? So, from a perspective of macronutrients, we can get away with just protein and calories because that's a bit more of a flexible approach. Again, I have clients who have to travel a lot with work or want to socialize a little bit more. So just in terms of making life a little bit easier, especially if they're having to eat out quite frequently and stuff, tracking calories and protein, as you'll know, is a far easier approach. You know what I mean?
Right.
At the end of the day, if you want to create a balance where, clients are able to, get results or make progress and still have, the freedom to socialize and things like that, you've got to have a happy medium. So sometimes, going down the approach of protein, carbs, fats can make things a little bit harder. And, we obviously both know, right? It's so long as you're basically maintaining calorie deficit, maintaining good protein, that's going to take care of most of the fat loss result in itself, right?
Yeah.
So that's the foundation of how I do a lot of things with clients. And then after that, it's really about kind of fine tuning based on the client. So for example, I've got some clients who are very kind of social on the weekends. So we'll deliberately go lower calorie during the week, have higher days on the weekend, just to make life a little bit easier if they are socializing. Or if anyone just wants straight sort of calories 7 days a week, I'll then kind of apply sort of calorie banking methods, i.e., we'll reduce calories by around 20% a day, bank those calories across the week, and then use it on the weekend for, whatever sort of social occasion it may be, that sort of stuff. And then probably how I do things differently is when it comes to especially newer clients who are maybe going to restaurants where, no information is available on like online on menus or in my fitness pal, I'll kind of go through the menus with them and go, okay, so this looks like a high protein option, moderate calories, moderate carbs. So let's put that in. Then we'll work your diet around it, and then we'll essentially do it that way to try and fit it into the plan. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's not like a set approach. It's kind of, I have quite a few different tools that I can use with each client. And it's more of a case of, okay, so I think lower calories Monday to Friday, higher calories weekend will suit you better. Or, straight calories. And then we'll be like, okay, let's, look through the menus together. Let's put this in and let's work it around, sort of thing.
Yeah, amazing. I think that's definitely where, like, obviously, like, I get drawn to your stuff as well because we're very similar minded in that sense, like, of just actually, like, it's very hard, especially because we're kind of in, but like, I'm definitely over the last kind of year, I've got a lot more serious with bodybuilding. So this is where potentially it's become a bit more detrimented into my own life. I'm very good at preaching it, like you are, like, yeah, cool guys. Like, I'm very like, if you're doing this, just have this flexibility, we'll save some calories, whatever it is. I'm very good at preaching it, but actually to do it myself now, I find sometimes a bit tricky. So I guess like when you have people come to you that's more, because if you said, right, like if I came to you and like, right, Sam, coach me, you'll be like, it's kind of a piece of piss, but from a nutrition and training side of things. But how would you control that mindset of sometimes, like, sometimes for me, I'm like, I still have that guilt. And I sometimes think, well, actually, if I do eat chicken, rice, and broccoli, like, sometimes I'm like old school works. So
Yep.
how would you kind of, maybe not, maybe almost the word is almost reassure, like reassure that I'm okay and I'm doing the right thing, if that makes sense. Because mindset's the
Yeah.
biggest thing when it comes to, I think, honestly, like I generally think training, nutrition, piece of piss, like generally.
Yeah.
But the other 23 hours a day where you're not training and you're in your own head is the hardest part. So I guess kind of, does that make sense? Like the question I'm trying to,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
100%. Like, I mean, to be fair, a lot of the time when clients come on board with me, they'll see me talking about, being able to get in shape without giving up the social life. They'll see the results I kind of deliver. They'll see the content I put out and stuff. And to a degree, everyone's going to be skeptical, right? And it's understandable.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. The first point of entry for most people in the fitness industry is, they might just see something randomly on TV when they're watching, ITV breakfast and stuff. They'll see someone talking about, oh, you've got to eat super clean, you got to do loads of cardio, you got to weightlift and stuff like that, right? So I think everyone goes into the world of fat loss and stuff, or the world of body composition, feeling like they have to be a little bit stricter with their nutrition, a bit more with their training, that sort of stuff, right? So when they've got, someone like me coming out here like, hey, yeah, if you're the kind of person that, doesn't really want to be eating chicken, rice, and broccoli 7 days a week sort of thing, like there is another way. It's easy to get skeptical. And, what I really do during the first few weeks, especially with clients, is, especially when we start seeing progress and stuff like that, I'll then kind of like go through and be like, look, hey, you've done this while you've had full control of your diet. Like you've picked every single meal that you've had. Like you've nailed your calories. You've had some of your favorite foods. You've even socialized like since we started here, and you've still lost weight. And that can often be just a massive mindset shift. Is just knowing like, one of my clients who's been on board with me now for like 5 weeks, they're, a few kilos down already. And, 2 weekends in a row, they had 2 back-to-back hen do's, and we had to try and factor that into the plan sort of thing. And it's like, afterwards, it was like, I actually can't believe it. Like before, I would have just like only drank water, or I would have sort of said no to the hen do and like not gone. And I'm like, I'm not about that. I'm going to teach you how to put this into the plan sort of thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes it just takes, taking that action, trusting the process, and then being able to look back at it and go, oh, actually, like I've been able to, still shift some weight, get stronger in the gym, make good progress with my physique. And I've been a bit more flexible with my nutrition. Like I've had one of my favorite chocolate bars, or I've, you know what I mean? And it's, I think sometimes it takes that sort of leap of faith initially, trusting that process. And then after a few weeks of, really putting it into practice, that's when you can look back and you can see the evidence right there and go, oh, wow, like this actually does work. I had nothing to fear sort of thing.
Yeah, no, honestly, man, like I 100% agree. And it's like, not even to this day I've never followed a meal plan. I've never done a meal plan, and that's the 6 shows and like 4 shoots or something like that. I've never followed a meal plan. I eat about 4 meals a day. And it works. Do you know what I mean? It generally like it does, it works extremely well. I think what I love about what we do is that there's so much shit out there still that we earn a living off the shit.
Oh,
like it almost gets to the point where sometimes I don't get frustrated with it, but it's still the, I don't think it'll ever go, but it's the whole foods. I eat whole foods, I eat healthy foods and all this sort of stuff. And like you said, it's the foundation of everything is just simplistic, right? It's like monitoring like what goes in your mouth, right? How many calories, how much protein, hydration, your sleep, your gut health, all this sort of stuff. You get those things right, you'll just drop body fat alone. You don't even need to go work out yet.
100%.
Then you can start to train. Then you can start to worry about this. And then you can cut to the top of the pyramid. Then you can worry about your meal timings and optimizations of everything and things like that. But it's definitely like, for me, the balance is where I'm starting to take things a bit more seriously. And this is obviously, again, this depending, like you say, client to clients can be very different. Like if you say like, I know that if I have less balance for a period of time, I will generally, I want to quote it. It's not the word balance, it's priority listing. I think that's what I think that's what we need to kind of change, like the word balance. It's almost priority listing. Like if you're going through a busy period in your life, you've got to move house and you've got, I don't know, like a new baby on the board, like you've got a couple of hendos, like you said, fitness can come down a couple of pegs, like your training. So you're like, cool, don't worry about training 4 times a week. Like just try and go 2 to 3 times a week. Make sure you do your steps for the next 2 to 3 weeks. It's almost like control what you can control. And that's
Yeah.
definitely what I had in Australia. I was like, well, new gym, different environment. I'm actually just going to take this month and just pull back. And then it allows me 12
Yeah.
months to push forward. It's trying to look at the whole thing on a bigger picture, like being like, if you have 10 incredible months this year, who gives a fuck if 2 of them was shit?
Yeah.
Because it's
That's
still
exactly it, mate.
progress.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. And for me, the way I sort of address this, because it's interesting, really. Everyone, again, like you said, talks about this whole balance thing, and it's getting that balance right. I don't look at it as something as a balance you're trying to achieve. I look at it more like a swinging pendulum. I look at it more in a sense of, you know, there are going to be times where, you might need to sort of scale back on the socializing a little bit just so you can push for a little bit more aggressive or more consistent progress. And I say that to some of my clients, sometimes I'll be like, look, okay, so we've got like 10 weeks to your holiday. Let's really, move up through the gears right now. Let's just try and control things even better, especially on the weekends and stuff. It's a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain, right? That doesn't mean completely cut out your social life. That just means be a little bit more controlled, be a little bit smarter with decisions, maybe make a bit more of a smarter choice with sort of things, right? The simple little swaps and stuff. And equally, there are going to be times as well where, this pendulum needs to swing the other way, where life gets a little bit more busy, right? So, some things I do with my clients sometimes, especially in the summer, is I kind of put them on social life phases, which is the idea of just taking calories back to maintenance, stripping away the cardio, focusing purely on just being able to maintain progress as it is while
Yeah.
they're a little bit more social. Because they may have, back-to-back parties or birthdays or events, whatever it may be, right? And I'm sure you'll agree, right? Sometimes just trying to diet through that or trying to lose body fat through that, you're basically losing the battle. Like, that anyway. But it's just you want to take that sort of pressure away from them and just be like, look, hey, you've done a great job so far. Let's just maintain this now. Go enjoy yourself for a month. Once that's out of the way and we've got a bit of a clearer schedule, then we get the gas down once again and we push forward. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I sort of view things. It's a swinging pendulum, and it all really depends on things coming up, where they're at in their progress, where they're at in the journey, that kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. It's one of those things where it's like, I love the best fitness answer out there is it depends. Like, it's the best answer
Mm-hmm.
in the world. It's like,
Yep.
what should I do? Well, it depends. It depends.
Yep.
And I think people, when it comes to health and fitness, I think because it's so big, like cosmetics, tattoos, like
Yeah.
all this world now is so big. Like, like come to Dubai, you're like, fuck, if you don't have Louis, Gucci, and if you don't have butt
Oh
implants
yeah.
and double D's, like you don't belong, sort of thing. But
Yeah.
like the cosmetic side and the cosmetic and the beauty industry, the fashion industry is so big right now. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just been drip fed, but I think people think it's life or death, health and fitness.
It
And
is.
they think,
Yeah.
and you're like,
100%.
and you're a bit like, so honestly, I'm fucking guilty of that sometimes, like generally. But it is just looking at things as a bigger picture. And I think what me and you are probably really good at with clients is honestly just grounding people and just
Mm.
like almost just being like you said, like, look at these last 2 weeks. Like you've gone out on these 2 Hindus and you've still seen incredible progress. Like, what are you worried about? Like, and
Yeah.
what are you comparing to? What are you racing for? And all this sort of things. It's like, I was talking to a friend the other day and she was like, oh, I'm 29. I need to sort my life out. I'm like, what do you mean sort your life out? By the time we get to 50, we probably like science has probably given us an extra 30 years of life again. So I'm like,
Yeah.
why why do we need to nail and perfect health and fitness? Why do we need to be at certain stages in our certain lives? And a lot of it now is like, as coaches, I think it's almost just to ground people and bring them back into the present moment. You're like, are you better
Yeah.
than yesterday? Are you better than last week? Cool. Are
Mm.
you better than 6 months ago? Keep fucking going then. Like if you're in a better
Yeah.
position now than you were 6 months ago, just keep going. Like
Yeah. Yeah, that's it, man. And I think part of the problem with that as well is social media. I mean, social media has done a lot of good for the fitness industry, and hell, it's given us the jobs that we've got, right? It's allowed us to connect with clients all around the world and ultimately start working with people that, really match our energy and we can get great results with. But at the same time as well, it's opened up the door to a lot more shit, basically. Long and short of it, right? And touching upon what you mentioned there as well, especially with the cosmetic side of things coming in, especially when you look at Instagram and you realize that photoshopped images are very prominent. Um, Again, we obviously know just how kind of like big, PEDs are in the fitness industry as well. For the average person listening to this, I don't think they realize just how many people are actually on some form of performance enhancing
Oh,
gear.
mate.
It's way more than what they actually realize. And I think when you then look at some of those physiques and you're like, yeah, I want to attain that. But then you've also got to realize there's a bit of lighting, a bit of editing. And there's also some very, naughty stuff behind that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that just adds to the pressure, to the average person who, and this is the worst thing as well, right? Is I think social media just puts pressure on people from all different angles, right? I suppose, again, blessing and a curse, because we now see so many people starting their own businesses, so many millionaires and stuff in their early 20s and things like that. It creates this perception for the average person that, the only way they're going to have a good life is if they have this, they have that. You know what I mean? I think long and short of it is, people are put under a lot of pressure with social media, and especially when they get caught into that comparison trap and stuff like that. And again, just like you said, we often have to ground our clients and remind them, where they're at in their journey, how much progress they've made. And we've got to remind them that they're only really in competition with themselves, not anyone else.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part of our job sometimes, but it's also the most vital part as well.
It is, man. Like at the end of the day, we know like for ourselves, we can get in shape and we can get people in shape. Like that's great. But the whole process of like you'll know this when you first have a conversation with someone and then 12 months later, you're like, do you even remember who you were 12 months ago? Like who I spoke
Yeah.
to. That's generally the biggest thing. And when people can turn around like that and you honestly nailed it in the head, even for me, like I'll do the same. Like 90% of the people I follow are muted and I can't see their shit because honestly, like it fucks with me because like I'll be like, oh my God, like I'm 27. There's people that are where I want to be and they're 24. And I'm like, you'll
Yep.
see, like, obviously, my goal is to obviously now take my physique to the next level. I do want to hunt to
Yep.
be a professional athlete again. And I'm like, am
Yep.
I too late? Like, I'm 27. Like, people are 24 and they're 300 pounds. So I'm like, fucking hell, like, what is going on? And then they're like, and it's just being like, relax. That's one person. You're looking at the pinnacle person
Yep.
and you're like, there's fucking 7 billion people in the world trying to achieve that one thing. And you're
Yeah.
just like, sometimes we just all need to take a step back and just be like, dude, just like give yourself a pat on the back. Like again, like in the last 3 years, like you have moved your life to Australia. Now you live in three places in the world that you're between Australia,
Yeah.
Dubai, and UK. And you just think, oh, like you could say to Sophie, do you want to go away tomorrow? You're like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Let's get on a flight and go. Like having
That's
that
it.
freedom in the last 3 years. So imagine how the next 3 years is going to look for you, and vice
Yeah.
versa. Like it's just nuts. Like, I literally got back from Australia not yesterday, Wednesday morning, and I'm just like, fuck, that doesn't seem real. Like, and
Mm.
then you're like, holy shit, and it's just bizarre. And sometimes we have to ground ourselves, and because you have a coach as well, right? Like, do you get coached?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And generally, honestly, that's the reason I have a coach. I could generally probably sit and write my own diet and training program. Pretty simple. I probably would
Yeah.
be a little bit easier on myself, maybe. But honestly, like I have a coach purely for reassurance more than anything. Like
Yeah.
accountability is always a big factor, but
Huge.
honestly, just reassurance. Like I know when I should rest. I know when I should eat a little bit more, eat a little bit less, but I'll always ask for a second opinion. And whatever they say goes. I'm like, I knew the answer, just need you to say yes or no. Like,
Yeah.
and that's generally it. And I need someone to ground me. I do need a compliment now and then. I do need
Mm.
those little things. So it's definitely a funny amazing world. Obviously, we wouldn't be sitting here having this podcast if we didn't live in this world. But
Yeah.
it's definitely how do you find it nowadays? How are you finding things with you're pretty good at, do you know what, man? I think it's an Australia thing as well. It's very nice that it's kind of its own bubble, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
it's a real separate bubble. It's a slower pace
It
of
really is.
life. It's a bit more like, I like that it's miles ahead. Like I asked you about a month ago before I went, I was like, oh, how do you find like check-ins and how do you find the
Yeah.
time? Mate, honestly, fucking so good there. It was so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I was
Yeah.
going to bed, like oh, I could do the first half of my day, wouldn't even get a message. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. So the first half of the day, train, you do your work, and then you just deal with shit in
Mm.
the afternoon. It was so nice.
Yeah, that was it. And like that is one of the beauties of being here for me. Like I can just get up in the morning, I can get all my check-ins done, my programming, my main energy demanding tasks done during the day, and then I can use my evening to do more creative stuff, more educational stuff, or jump on calls, whatever it may be. It's great. And it's like I said to you before you went over to Australia. I feel like Australia is all the good parts of the UK in terms of culture, people, behavior, just with a much more relaxed lifestyle. And I'm sure you'll know what I mean when I say this. Like, Australia is one of the least materialistic places in the world. All people really
Yeah,
care
man.
about here, yeah, like all people really care about here is just getting to a weekend, nice weather. They'll go for a coffee at 6 in the morning on a Saturday, or they'll go for a surf, go on the
Yeah.
beach. Like, what they care about, man. They don't really care about the money and the flashy stuff. Whereas
No,
obviously
no.
UK, Dubai, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, like to a degree,
Oh
but
no, I think there is
it,
something wrong with it as well. Like generally, I think the world's going the wrong way. I do. Like you know what it's like. You've been into like B1 and things like that. If you go in and you haven't got a
yeah,
fucking Louis handbag and a fucking Louis Gucci bag, and like, oh shit, like, am I doing all right in life? If you don't rock up in a Lambo and you're like, oh, am I doing all right in life? But
yeah,
it's like you say, when
I
I
can
was in
definitely
Australia,
get you like that.
yeah. And then it's like when I was in Oz, I was just like, it was the simple things that I do the simple things here. Like I just love going to coffee shops and sitting like
Yeah, yeah,
of
same.
sitting by the sea and just chilling. Like that is literally like, oh, if I could just do that for the rest of my life, I'd be pretty set.
Yeah,
But somehow you got to be the benefit I like of kind of sometimes what was good going there for a period of time and coming back here is that wow, the lessons I learned about what I truly want and who I sometimes like that reassurance of who I am, bringing it here
mm.
feels a lot better now.
Yeah, definitely, and I completely see that as well, mate. Because I love Dubai. Like for me, I don't think I work anywhere near as good as what I do when I'm in Dubai. Like in terms of just being head down, focused.
Mm,
I suppose it helps being surrounded. Obviously my mentors live in Dubai. I've got loads of coaches around me. It's a very motivating place to be.
Roger.
But I think sometimes you need to be in different environments to really remind yourself of who you are, what you're doing this for, and things like that. Um, it can be very easy in Dubai to get focused on this idea of just constant growth, cash flow, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff, right? And then you can get out to somewhere like Australia where you can just be yourself, there's no pressure around you. You can kind of remind yourself of why you're doing what you're doing. You can take some time out, go sit by the beach and be like, what the fuck am I doing all this for? What is the point?
Yeah.
And that really helps you to kind of remind yourself of that sort of thing. And I think that is really important as well. So, you know, that's why I've loved being here because, again, obviously being here and being away from all my family and friends, like it's weird, but at the same time, that isolation to a degree actually gives me a lot of time to think and a lot of time to really think about who I am, what I want to achieve, where I want to go in life, that sort of stuff. So it's kind of nice in that respect as well.
Yeah, amazing, man. And I just think as well, like obviously, because obviously, like a big thing is obviously like I'll always do anything for my partners, things like that, like being close to
Mm.
their family and things like that. And as long as for me, like I'm very much the same as you, as long as I know my family's healthy and they're okay, like I don't matter, it doesn't bother me where in the world we are. Like the love doesn't change, communication doesn't change, and things like that, as long
Yep.
as I know those things. But definitely like I think because the individuals we are and who we surround ourselves with, we always need to I need to be in an environment that's good for me. Like I go back to the UK now and I truly struggle. Like I truly
Yeah.
struggle. Like I don't know. Is it what's happened in the last few years? Is it just because it's a cultural thing? Is it because it's weather and all this sort of stuff? Like, yeah, I think it's probably all of the combination. Um,
100%.
and it's just looking at I've got to put myself in an environment where I feel the best me and happiest me. And definitely Dubai and Australia is definitely those two places for sure, man. And it's nice to talk to someone that's kind of doing it as well. You're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
things that are in my head isn't just like me.
Yeah. No, 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 mate. I completely agree with it. Like, I think it's one of them where, home will always be home and I'll always love home. I'll always love going back for the simple things like just going to watch Forest, going to go out for a pint with my mates, that sort of stuff, right? Pub culture in the UK cannot be beat whatsoever. So for me, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
But when you come to places like, Dubai and Australia, and even when I was in Thailand a few weeks ago as well,
Oh yeah,
like
you went there, yeah.
you get to you go to these places and it really gives you something that you've never really had when you've been at home before. And that's when you then get that sort of stark reminder that home is home, yes, but there are places in the world where you're probably going to work better and probably live a better quality life. And it's everyone deserves to have that sort of thing. And if they've got the opportunity to go and do it, they've got to go and do it. So, you know, yeah, of course it sucks being away from family and stuff, but I kind of look at it in a sense of they would rather me be here because they know I'm happy and I'm productive here.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if I ever had to go home, I'm
24
like if I
hours.
was flying from here, I'm only a day away,
Yeah.
one day,
Yeah.
like not the end of the world sort of thing. So I think it is really important, really. And like Dubai for me is like a happy medium. It's obviously middle between UK and Australia and stuff like that. And that's why I love being there as well. But yeah, like me and you are very similar positions in that respect. And I think, for you, if anything, probably going to Australia. It was quite funny because when I was watching your stories while you was there, because I knew exactly how you was going to react. Because for me, I'd only really lived in the UK and gone to Dubai and spent some time there. That was it. Other than Switzerland for 1 month, which was incredible. Other than that, it's literally I've spent most of my time in just the UK and Dubai. So when I came to Australia and I had that sense of it feels like home because everyone here speaks English. There's a lot of English people here. They're
Yeah.
all into the same stuff, but it's just a much more relaxed environment, way more chilled, just a really fun place to be. I knew you was going to experience that the minute you sort of came, or like this sort of the minute you came over here to kind of just control things as normal and kind of experience it. So it's quite funny watching your stories and you kind of realizing the same sort of things as me.
Yeah, 100%. And it is just the simple things, isn't it? It's just that slower pace. I felt very clear, I felt very present, which sometimes I definitely don't hear. Sometimes you're always, like you say, you're one step ahead or two steps forward, and you just forget to
Yeah.
look around and be like, this is pretty sick, sort of thing. So, no, it's absolutely amazing. Like, and it's just nice to talk to someone like Mandy. So it's absolutely spot on. I'm going to switch the conversation because I know I'm going to get this wrong because I'm not a huge follower. Are you Marvel or DC? You're
Sort of both, but probably more Marvel, I'd say.
okay. Have you seen the new Guardians to the Galaxy?
Yeah, I watched it last week.
Is it good?
Oh, mate, it's fantastic. Like it's obviously I'm a huge Marvel fan. And I mean, if anyone actually saw my collection of Marvel stuff back at home and here, they'd probably be quite frightened of the amount of money I've spent on it. But that's just me, right? It's collect
Yeah.
things that you enjoy and stuff like that. Um,
But things like that, though, also, this is like that's surely like very good investment. That's like buying Rolexes, right? Like that sort of stuff's big deal. Like it will
oh
be
yeah, like
20 years. Like, oh, like I had the original, like I bought this copy of Batman,
mm,
Superman, whatever it is, 20 years ago. You're like, fuck, that'll be crazy. I'm
yeah,
right. That's kind of the same. It's like Pokemon cards. Why did I get rid of
mm,
Pokemon cards? They're killing it now.
yeah. Yeah, but that's just it. So, I mean, I've been looking at this in a perspective of, I collect things that I enjoy, but I also collect things that I know probably have a return on investment as well. So, for example, on my desk out there, I've got a copy of Moon Knight #1. So it's not his first appearance, but it's his first comic issue. And I got that just after Oscar Isaac was announced to play Moon Knight in the TV series last year.
Oh
Because I
wow.
know I know what's going to happen. It's going to be big actor comes in, live action, they get introduced into the Marvel comic universe, the hype starts to build. I managed to get a copy of the first issue of his comic line from 1980, really good condition. It only cost me 30 quid.
Wow.
And if I go and get it graded, I know it's going to get probably an 8 or an 8.5 minimum. I can resell that for upwards of 3 grand if I wanted to. Like,
Fuck.
yeah, like just things like that. You know what I mean?
How does that
Um,
work? So how does that work? So when you obviously, I know quality is a big thing, right? Like when you buy
yeah.
DVDs and shit like that, it's like the quality of the disc and things like that. So I get it with comics and things like that.
Mm.
How what's the grading? Obviously, tens like immaculate, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
okay,
Yeah, so you obviously send them in and they get meticulously graded. Like they will look through every single page if they see a crease, if they see a bit of paint missing or whatever, or a bit of print missing.
wow,
it
Okay.
grades it and stuff like that. So the difference from the naked eye, if you're not someone that's really involved in it, you wouldn't really see the differences between a 7 and a 10.
Yeah.
But they make a big difference in terms of what their value is, sort of thing. So, you know, I've sort of got mine there. It's still ungraded because I have to send it to the US, and there's like an 8 month backlog of getting it graded because of COVID and stuff. So I haven't bothered sending it off yet. But like, I know if I hold it and if Oscar Isaac keeps appearing in more Marvel stuff in the future, like it's probably going to keep going up. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why I'm sort of keeping it. But at the same time, you know, it's part of my desk. You'll
Yeah.
know how this feels, right? Having an environment that inspires you, that feels like your place where you can just surround yourself in your own little world and get to it.
Yeah.
That's why I have that there on my desk. And I look at it every day, like before I start like my main work and stuff. So, but yeah, to answer your original question, obviously about Guardians, for me, it's the out of all the films we've seen since the end of Endgame, and we know Marvel's been very up and down with the quality of the films and the stories. It was fantastic, and for me, it's probably my favorite film since No Way Home.
Okay.
Obviously, all the other ones around that have been sort of up and down. But yeah, it was a really good quality story. It's just be prepared to go on a very emotional journey. Put it that way.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. I was
Yeah,
gonna
yeah, yeah.
gonna go. I think I was gonna go this weekend, so I was like, oh, okay. Let me just get an
Mate,
insight.
at the very end, I'm not joking. You'll be sat in your chair at the very end of the film, and you'll be like, "Fuck, what have I just been through?"
Oh,
It's one of
really?
them. So
Okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
good.
yeah,
I do like that. I do like emotions, everything for me, like in a movie. I do like that sort of stuff. So it's
yeah,
perfect.
definitely.
Nah, sick man. No, honestly, man. Like I honestly, I know it gets late and things like that for you. So I guess what's next for you? What's going on this year? Like, what's the plan for Sam?
Yeah, so busy year. So I mean, I've got another 6, 7 weeks in Australia, I think, and then I actually go to the US and Canada for about 3 weeks. It's like a bit of a working holiday slash holiday trip. You know, one of them where you're having a bit of a holiday, but are also working at the same time, just in a different environment.
Yeah.
Kind of one of them. Um, so yeah, I've got that in late June to early July. Then I head
Nice.
back to the
Where are you
UK after
going?
that.
What states?
Uh,
What areas are you going to?
so we're going to be mostly in Alaska, Vancouver, and Seattle, most of it, because Sophie's family like have friends and stuff that are in those areas, so we're kind of staying with them and around there, that sort of thing.
Wow.
So yeah, look forward to it. It's gonna be really cool. So yeah, we're there for like 3 weeks. Then I head to the UK afterwards. Obviously got client events on. I've got a couple of clients actually doing some photo shoots, so I'll be attending those. Spend time with family as well. And then I think September time, we're doing potentially a month in Dubai because we've got another business event out there at the time.
Cool.
Then back to the UK for a bit, and then I'm back in Australia for Christmas. So yeah, it's gonna be a busy year, and it's gonna be an unfortunately expensive year for flights. Put it that way.
Yeah, honestly, my mind was I didn't even book. So I just booked. Yeah. So when I went out to Oz this time, it was I went back to the UK for a group shoot, and then it was cheaper to go back into the UK and then all the way to Oz than it was to fly originally
Yeah,
from.
it's weird, isn't it? I
Such a
don't get
weird,
it.
so weird. Everyone's like oil price. I'm like, well, it's clearly not fucking oil prices, is it? I'm just flying an
Oh,
extra halfway around the world, so it's not that. It's just where you live in Dubai. You're like, oh, we'll charge you a bit more, fuckers. Um,
yeah, serious. That's
I,
that's that's all it is, literally. Like I've come to realize that as well because it just doesn't make sense. Like
nah,
when I've priced it up before and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just like go to Dubai, spend a few days there, and then fly on to the UK from there. And then you price it up and it's the same price to fly to the UK from Perth as it is to fly from just Perth to Dubai. And I'm like,
yeah, makes
that
no
does not
sense.
make sense.
No, it doesn't. No, it's weird. And then because I only booked I didn't even book a return flight. I just flew in and I was like, ah, shit, I better book a return flight, sort of thing. But I only booked it like maybe 2 weeks before we left. But it wasn't. I
Mm.
don't like. I kind of knew it was going to be expensive, but it was only like 1,100 quid, and I was like, for a last minute flight, I didn't think that was horrific. Like,
That's not bad. That's not bad to be fair.
yeah,
Again, I think the longer if you can try and book it in advance, it's not too bad. I mean, when I flew out in January to come here, it was £1,400 one way. I've looked now for my flight back here at the end of November, it's looking about 800 quid one way. So
yeah,
again, if you book
yeah,
it further in advance, it's going to be cheaper. But
yeah. Because we've
I am
got
very much a last minute guy, so I'm terrible for it.
yeah, no, because that's what we got to do. Because we're having back end of September, we're back out there. So definitely, probably in the next month to get it booked up, sort of thing. So no, it's good, man. That sounds like a fucking sick year. Are you? And then you're spending Christmas in Oz? Do you say?
Yeah, so the way the way it works is pretty much I'll alternate every year where I spend Christmas, either at home or in Australia. So it's my turn to be in Australia for Christmas this year.
Nice, cool. Is most of Sophie's family seem to be everywhere?
Yeah, I'm not joking. They pretty much are, but like the majority of them are like her mom and obviously her dad and her stepdad and stuff. They're all here in Perth,
Okay,
but she does have family like in the UK and stuff as well. So, but yeah, it's my turn to spend Christmas here this year. So
nice, awesome. Does she have a dual pass? Can you get dual passports anymore?
yes.
Can
So
you?
she's got a full British passport and she's got an Australian one as well.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, sick. I honestly feel like I need to do that at this rate. So no.
Honestly, it definitely makes life easier when it comes to certain travel situations, apparently. But um, do you not get or can you get a Dubai-based one now that you're a resident? Or
No, I don't. I don't know if there's a thing. I think it's only like in a. I don't know if you turn into a citizen at some stage. I don't know, but I don't know. No, I've just got a British one. That's it. I've got more chance because all my family. So my dad lives in Australia, and all my dad's family live there. So I've had I had a working visa for Australia and things like that in the past for like when I was living in Perth and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
like potentially I might try and go down that route eventually. But I don't know how it all works and I don't know how I don't know all the political side to it.
So I think you're gonna have to go down the same route as what I would, in a
Yeah.
sense of because Steph's Australian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll be able to get a partner visa,
Yeah.
which basically gives you pretty much permanent residency rights, except you're just not a permanent resident sort of thing. It's basically you're a partner of an Australian citizen,
Yeah.
and that gives you kind of like full-time working rights to be here and stuff like that. Unfortunately, for people like us who have businesses registered elsewhere who do
That's
online work, we are a little bit screwed because basically at the moment we can only get one working holiday visa and that's it.
yeah.
We can't get any others. There is a rule change that comes in on the 31st of May, but it takes 2 years to enforce, where we'll be able to get another two working holiday visas, which is fine for us. But other than that, we can only really use the tourist visas because that allows us to work, like do an online business via that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
um, it's kind of a case of you keep doing the tourist visas, which obviously only allowed to be here for 3 months before you have to leave, or you pay for the partner visa, which is about £6,000, and then you've got the solicitor fees and things like that. So it's pretty expensive. But that's probably your only long term option, I think. And then I think
Yeah.
when you're here for a certain amount of time, you can then obviously get your passport and stuff.
Yeah. There you go. Well, that's my answer.
Yeah,
So,
there you go. So yeah, you're in the same situation as me. So
yeah, pretty much is it. What are you doing training wise and things like that? Have you got any kind of have you got I guess because obviously it's really nice. We all have business goals and things like that. But do you have any physical goals, things like that for yourself? Is there anything kind of in the like taper?
yeah, so it's interesting. I put this on an Instagram post the other day, really. So I'm not training for anything in particular. It's more of a case of I've got a standard to set. And if I'm the kind of guy that's going to come out here and tell you that you can get in good shape and still have a social life, I've got to friggin' prove it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So for me, it's I literally just put up a TikTok about this before we jumped on this podcast. Like, I'm able to kind of stay in the shape I'm in, sort of thing, and still be able to drink every weekend and stuff because I'm doing XYZ type thing. So for me, it's I want to set a standard for my clients and go like, look, hey, you can get in shape and still have a social life. I'm doing it myself, so this is why what I'm teaching you is going to work for you, sort of thing. So, see, I've not got anything really in particular. My coach believes that I'm sort of lean enough to be able to jump into a photo shoot tomorrow if I wanted to, which
Probably.
I always make a joke. We basically did like just a bit of a fat loss phase just before I went away because I wanted to be a little bit leaner for Thailand because we was having that as a holiday and then Dubai. Um, and we sort of coin it like an accidental photo shoot prep because he genuinely thinks I'm lean enough to do it a shoot. And I might end up doing one like when I go back to the UK or something because I can maintain the way I am pretty easily. I'm on a lot higher calories now. My output's lower. It's far easier to manage. So who knows, maybe. But For the
Nice.
moment, it's just, keep getting strong, just keep lifting for the sake of routine and maintaining my mental performance, things like that.
No, awesome, man. But it's the biggest one you said is just leading from the front. That's generally it.
Exactly.
Because obviously I'm going down the route now where it's I love every single client, but like my own direction doesn't attract people, and that's absolutely fine. And it's like I'm definitely like
Exactly.
going into the extremist route, which is cool. But it is just being like, at the end of the day, like, no matter what, like, you can still train hard. You still have to be an authority figure for people to look up to and be like, right, well, actually
Yeah.
lead from the front, be kind of that alpha, that role model, which is vital as a coach. I think that's my biggest pet peeve in the industry, to be honest. I'm like, don't just sit here and be fucking good with marketing and chat shit. Like, actually
Mm.
learn what it's like to pummel yourself in a hack squat or and things like that. Because then, if you want someone to do that, cool. That's how you're going
Yeah.
to get
I
phenomenal
one
results with
million
people.
percent agree. Yeah, like I 1 million% agree. And I look at it like this, like, yeah, you know what, you might not be a bodybuilder, you might not want to compete or do a photo shoot like me. Like, I
Yeah,
don't really want to step on stage. It's just not my thing. But at the end of the day, I've got a duty as a coach to practice what I preach. If I'm also going to go to, let's be honest, like I'm sort of in some respects on another end of the scale. I'm not, strict bodybuilding, comp prep, PEDs, that sort of stuff. I'm on the opposite end here where I'm telling people, like, look, you can go and have a few beers every week and still get in shape.
yeah,
So if I'm going to preach that message, I've got to practice what I preach. I can't be someone who's on a meal plan 24/7, on PEDs, training strict, doing shitloads of cardio, and preaching a different message. That's
yeah,
just complete sham. But
yeah,
we obviously know what the fitness industry is like, right? We know people do peddle this shit all the time. So for me, it's about leaning from the front, and it's like, I do believe you can have a good physique and still have a social life. And for me, it's up to me to be able to prove that for myself and lead from the front, and also show that I can do it for other people as well.
yeah, 100%, man. No, honestly, absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I will honestly let you chill now, so it's good. But no, honestly, but it was just amazing. Thank you for your time, man. It's just nice to speak to an individual that's on the same wavelength and that
Yeah.
generally is fucking hungry for the future, which is amazing. So absolutely love it, bud. Where can anyone find you if they want to stalk you, check you out? Where's the best place to kind of get hold of you and things like that?
Easiest place to get a hold of me is just Instagram. So at Sam Marriott PT, spelled out with two R's and two T's. Everyone always spells my last name wrong, but yeah, that's got to be the best place to probably find me is just through Instagram.
Awesome, man. Easy. I love how people do Instagram now. Like no one's like, it used to be like, oh, what's your phone number? Now it's like,
Yeah.
just go on my Instagram. No,
It's just the easiest place, isn't it? Because everyone's got Instagram. It's just the easiest way to communicate. It's just a straight option. You know what I mean?
yeah, super easy. No, absolutely amazing. I will tag all your stuff in the YouTube,
Awesome.
Spotify's, all that sort of stuff, man. So, no, absolutely amazing. But thank you so much. And I'll probably catch you in September whilst you're here. So, it'll be sick.
100%, bro.
Diamond.